Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. This is the Dan Diamond Channel. I'm your host, Dan, and you join me on a nice summer's day, which I might be ruining, I might be not, whatever you're doing today. The reason why I might be ruining this video is because of the fact that today we're going to be talking about something really important in politics. So, I want you to tell me in simple terms what you think of democracy. What's the first word that comes to mind? Maybe it's freedom, tolerance, America, because of course America is the home of democracy. Let me tell you that you shouldn't think any of those things. Why? Because democracy doesn't exist. Democracy is fake. Democracy is bloody fake. And today I'm going to explain why it's fake. The concept of democracy came about in ancient Greece, and it basically means someone or a few people come up to be candidates so that they could become the leader of a nation in what's called an election. The people of that nation or state choose whichever candidate they think is going to rule their nation best, and whichever candidate gets the most votes or gets the most seats in a government usually wins the election and becomes the leader. For example, in the USA, they have whoever wins the general election will become president, and his sidekick becomes vice president. I say sidekick just because people need to understand this. But there are a few issues with democracy in the current world, and that is the fact that it just doesn't exist. There's no such thing as a perfect democracy. There are partial democracies which do have elections, and they are very free and fair sometimes, but there are just some nations but none of these nations, none of them, have achieved perfect democracy. First of all, let's talk about what a perfect democracy would look like. In my vision, a perfect democracy would look like this. When elections come around, a random group of people step up so that they become saying that I want to be leader. And they give a few reasons why. They run a manifesto, and then they just put up on a wall or put it up across the nation. They usually spend like a good amount of money trying to get themselves to be popular. But the point is, when election day comes around, everyone in the nation is invited to polling stations which are set up all around the place. And thus, they decide which person seems like the best person to be their leader. And when the final results come in, whoever gets the most votes is automatically leader. And 2 years later, or whatever period you might choose to pick, there is another election where the person who was already elected leader can become leader again, or they could be replaced by another one of the candidates. However, let's look at other nations and why modern democracy is a problem. First reason is the existence of political parties. Of course, there is freedom of political parties, or the right to form political parties, which allows you to just create a political party of your own with its own manifesto, its own ideologies, and its own everything. But it's really hard to, because if you just create a new political party and intend to run in the elections and just do stuff, it's really hard. And that's because of the existence of political parties itself. In a perfect democracy, there should be no such thing. Let's take the UK, or no, not the UK, we'll use that later. The United States of America, the home of democracy, as it were. Tell me, which two political parties are more often involved in most elections than any other? This answer is very simple. Democrats, Republicans. Have there been any other political parties whatsoever in the USA? Alright, I hear you out, those political boys in the comments. You might be flooding it soon enough when I check on this video later on in the week, but really? It's either the Republicans or the Democrats in most elections, not really anyone else. There may be other political parties, but they're just there for show. It's a two-party state. You either pick one or pick the other. It's very limited. This is exactly why political parties shouldn't exist, because the existence of political parties just makes democracy imperfect altogether. For a perfect democracy, there should be no such thing. Now, for my second issue, which is that voting is also quite limited. Let's take... Okay. The reason why, it's been proven before that there is a really good voting system out there. Let's look at the best example of a democracy, the closest thing we ever got to a true democratic system. The Weimar Constitution in Deutschland, or Germany. Because everyone knows it as Germany, but they like to be called Deutschland, and I respect that. Point is, in Deutschland, the Weimar Constitution existed from 1918 to 1933 when Mr. Austrian Painter came around. Point is, they used to have something called proportional representation. In a nutshell, if you got 10% of the votes, your party would get 10% of the seats in the parliament, or Reichstag. In a nutshell, it's the closest thing you could get to a democracy, because everyone gets a say. Except it was weak. That was really hard to get a majority because of the fact that not only did extremist parties have more of a say, but that meant stronger parties had less of a say. And although that might be good because, well, maybe some of these extremist parties aren't so bad. They might not be evil. I mean, sure, there were evil ones out there, but maybe they're not. Point is, the existence of proportional representation, I love it. Best democratic system ever. But it could be improved. But that doesn't mean that it shouldn't exist. It could be improved, but it's the best form of democratic system. This is also in particular why I like the Liberal Democrat Party in the UK, because recently they've decided to put in their manifesto that they're going to reintroduce proportional representation into the UK. The current voting system is really biased and only the strongest parties can get the most votes. And thus, proportional representation is just a better option to secure democracy. And the third and final reason is that the leaders of democratic parties are absolute trash. Maybe they're not, but to be honest, everyone's just waiting around for a new Winston Churchill or Margaret Thatcher to come around, but they're dead. Or they're just not running for elections anymore. We need strong democratic leaders, and the way democracy is built means that strong democratic leaders are really hard to find. Most democratic leaders are weak, very cautious and repressed, and whoever knows what. The point is they're really weak leaders. An example of weakness in a leadership system can be seen with the Carthaginian Empire and the Roman Empire during the Punic War era. One of the biggest flaws of the Carthaginian Empire, and also the biggest strengths of the Roman Empire, was the way they treated their generals. In the Roman Empire, it was more of a meritocracy. Generals were rewarded for success in the battlefield. This meant that Roman generals were really, really reckless, and they went straight for it. Because rather than being worried about getting punished for failure, they were just trying to chase that reward, weren't they? They were risky go-getters. Meanwhile, in the Carthaginian Empire, generals were punished for failure, so they're more cautious and repressed. And that is not good in war, is it? Sure, a bit of cautiousness is required, but not that much. And the same applies to democratic leaders. Democratic leaders are often really scared of not getting re-elected, or just getting assassinated, or just losing popularity, that they're just really cautious with each decision they make. If the concept of meritocracy is given to them, then that means that democratic leaders will be really strong and change can actually be achieved so that we can make a perfect society. In a perfect democratic system, leaders shouldn't be worried that they can leaders should be made to forget about worrying that they won't be re-elected and focus on the fact that if they do good things, they'll be rewarded with, like, monetary prizes or just conscious prizes. Like, if they do something good for their nation, God will reward them or something. Anyways, that's the point. Democracy has failed. Or, more accurately, we have failed democracy. But we can fix that. Democracy is not dead yet. Thank you for watching, everybody. Make sure to like and subscribe and smash that like button, I tell you. Because I don't care whether you subscribe or not, really. The point is you like my videos. Because if you don't like it, man, what am I doing with my life? I should probably go get a career or something. Ain't it, guys? Thank you for watching.